Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, I'm excited. We've got Corey Peterson on the show. Corey is the CEO and founder of Kahuna Investments. Corey's acquired over $250 million in real estate nationwide, raised over $100 million in private equity. He's a best-selling author of Copy Your Way to Success, Standing on the Shoulders of Giants, Trust but Verified, The Passive Investor's Guide to Evaluating Syndicators, and hosts the Multifamily Legacy podcast. His company's mission is to partner with passive investors to create award-winning apartment communities. Families and students are proud to call home. Hey, Corey, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks a lot, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, excited to talk shop, and we've been kind of talking a little bit here off camera as well. So a lot of kind of similarities, and excited to get your take on state of the industry and kind of what you guys are doing to help mitigate that and kind of maximize returns for investors. But before we kind of dive into that, I want to get a little bit of your backstory for those of our listeners that may not be familiar with who you are, kind of how you got started. Give us a story. Did you grow up just catching waves?
Waves. I grew up on a farm in Missouri in the Ozarks, just like a Netflix series, The Ozarks, that Ozarks. I was never voted most likely to succeed, but I had a strong work ethic. My dad was a roofer. My dad taught me the roofing trade, but he also taught me not to be a roofer. And I didn't get the download from the mothership until I was like 30 years old, 32. I was a restaurant manager and a car salesman. But I wasn't happy with my life, but my mom was married to this man named Bruce. This is like 24 years ago. And I call him Bruce Wayne. He wasn't Batman, but he did have a lot of money. And he had a house right on Hawaii, in Kauai, the Garden Island. So we get there and my mom's like, do you want to come? I'm like, as long as you're paying, Mom, I'll come. And she did. And I get there. Bruce got this house right on the beach. He's got nice cars, and he was just living a different life that I've never seen. I've never seen that type of wealth before. So I had to ask him what he did. And he said he was in real estate, that he owned apartments. I left the island thinking Bruce was the big kahuna. And shortly after that, I read this book, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was like, oh my God, the light bulbs flashed. And Bruce is a real estate investor. And so I fell in love with that idea. And that Bruce was also self-made. And I just challenged myself because I was in a spot where I wasn't doing what I wanted, but I know I can if I really put my mind to it. I went on a journey. I read all the books for 2.5 years. And finally, I came to the point where I've got to take some action. And I started off, what do I call my company? And all I could think about is I wanted to be the big kahuna like Bruce. So I called my company Kahuna Investments. Started off single family fixed flips, realized that that's a never ending story, and started getting really good at raising private equity. And from that's like 2009, 10, 11. And then the short sales were harder to find. And I had all this money raised. And they're like, put me to work. And one day I drove by an apartment complex. And I used to say, I wish I could own an apartment. And one day I just said, how can I? When I framed the words, my brain went into action and I started solving for X. Found a couple of mentors actually. And surprisingly enough, if you do what they do and don't do what they don't do, you usually have success. And now we have a big company, a decent sized company. And what's interesting in this last kind of market cycle that we've been in, I mean, we got hit with kind of two COVID punches.
Yeah.
Now I'm in student housing. So COVID was really good for multifamily housing. And I have some multifamilies as well. We did really good. But for my student properties, COVID was a big 1-2 punch. It was the groin, and it was painful because they just stopped going to school. And then we come back into our current economy and interest rates. So like that's the double whammy. And really we can say it's uppercut at the end because you have insurance costs that went up in some markets 100%. And so all of that stuff combined forced us to look at operations, because the only way you can be successful in this real business, it takes a lot of work to raise money, buy a property, and everybody's like, oh my God, I bought the property. That's the first part, my friend. That is only the first step in a whole long thing to get returns to investors. And the money is in the management of the asset. That's where the real work begins. And so we were now big enough to look at our portfolio. We just started asking, like, God, some of these management companies, we just are not aligned correctly, Steve. They get paid on gross income, the collected. We get paid on NOI. So they don't care how much money they spend because it doesn't affect them. Fee-based, fee. Everywhere is a fee. And so we just looked at that mess and said, and you looked at that. I have some podcasts I did early on in my podcast. I said, I will never manage. I will never get into that business. And Steve, I feel it's like the Godfather show. I'm like, as soon as I get out, bring me back in. And so it's almost 2 years ago, we decided to self-manage. And I will tell you, in the beginning, I had no idea. Now, a couple things happened. One, we instantly started to save some money, right? Two, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be. You first see that initial savings, you're like, oh man, that's great. Like, we're doing well. And then comes management hell, right? And it's called people. I went from having 5 employees to almost 60 employees. And then you start learning that you have got to have a training department, SOPs. You've got to have, and we were kind of bootstrapping a management company. And so we had to get really good, really fast. And so there's some pain in that learning curve. But overall, I would say this, Steve, like what we did was the money that we saved just by watching our dollars and being in control of our dollars and our spending has far outweighed all the minutia of management. And I will just say this for anybody that ever is thinking about that doing that as an operator. And I think when you get big enough, you see a lot of the big operators, they do all eventually vertically integrate. And I think the reason why is it's really about control. My management company is not a profit center for me. I don't think it'll ever will be. I started making more money. I'm like, who else can I buy? What person can I afford now to pay to help it run smoother, better, more efficient? So it's more of an efficiency play, but the result is that NOI at the bottom now, because we're now having budget variance reports. And now those employees, instead of being kind of, you can't talk to employees, right? Because they're usually the manager, the company's employees, and they don't really like to talk it, even though we always do. But now I can insert our company culture. And it is crazy, Steve, when I really look at people work harder for recognition and attaboys and attagirls than just pay. And that's what we've really found out is people want to make a difference. And so we created our company and our core values, and we have this thing that we call the kind attitude, right? And so the first one is be the kind. Like, what's the my word, bro? Like, yo, bro, it's the kind. Like, show up, show out. Like, you are the kind, bro. And then our second one is give them, bro. Right? That's go full out, full send. Don't hold back. Do your best. Spread aloha. We kind of understand that. And then what did the Rock say in Lilo and Stitch? Be Ohana. Treat everybody like family. That's our goal. Like, we want people to have really good experiences with us. Great interactions. And we also just want to really hire good humans, good human beings with good hearts. And then my favorite one is we make it mo better. And we've realized that we're never going to, we want to achieve excellence, but Steve, I'm not sure that we'll always get there. We're always going to be short of the mark. And so the Bible has the Beatitudes, and this was our take on that, is we want to have some things that we stand for. And no, the last one is we give choke praise, a lot of, or a bunch of. These are all Hawaiian pidgin words. I know that, Steve, because it's the Kahuna. Come on. And we
good. I don't know that. I don't know if even like local companies that I know, I mean, maybe some of them kind of pick a little bit of a few different things, but it's got to be the strangest thing, like being in the Midwest and they're hearing these different, it's like, what are you talking about? Like,
it's totally, but it's unique to us. And that's
totally.
The best part is that it gives us a song and a vision and we are different. We want to be different. We don't want to be like every other dumbass management company, right? we want to be alive. And so in that, hopefully I'm conveying what that looks and feels like, because that was the difference for me. And I honestly got something special out of it for myself, Steve, is I was so like nervous about the people. And I found that it's the part that I love the best. I love being able to, because I, just like you, I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I love helping my team get that vision and see that desire. I'm like, listen, we may just be a stepping stone for your career, but if it's going to be the stepping stone, let me be a great stepping stone for you. Let me give you work ethic. Let me give you fire. Let me give you passion. And let me show you how I've conducted my life over a period of time, and see if you resonate with that, because my people behind us, they all feel the same way, and it's contagious. And so then comes the lessons we've been really mindful, and this is where we made some mistakes, is letting people, we call sometimes our company an orchard. Some people will come into your orchard and they look at all the fruit. Steve, they just start taking. And you're like, wait a second, slap. No. Some people will come into your orchard and they're a fungus, and they will infect and spread disease. And so you've got to cut that out quickly when you hire wrong. Because I used to think, I was like, God, am I just that bad at hiring? Because like, why is it? Because it's hard. And the truth is, none of us are good at it. None of you, we have steps that we try, but we're still not great at it. We just got to realize when we make a bad hire that we exit it quickly. But the right person will come into your orchard and be like, I think I can plant some more trees. I'm going to help cultivate this one. It's going to create massive fruit. And sometimes they are able to do things you didn't even know that were possible. I've already know in a new irrigation system or something. They're going to bring ideas to your company. And so we've learned to allow that to permeate and to ask for help, and to say, we don't have all the decisions. We don't have all the answers. We are looking for great people to bring value to our company, and we want to hear your ideas. And Steve, for us, as we translate that to what does it do for the money, because we are all beholden to the capital. Like any good company that when you're raising other people's money, that is who we're responsible to, right? And so all these things are now focused in a way to take care of the one thing that really matters, which is the investors, right? And be able to give them return. And in the crazy environment that we're in, where interest rates have skyrocketed, and like we have one more bridge loan I got to get out of. I've gotten rid of all my bridge loans, right? And those have been tough. Some of them not so tough. Some of them I was really smart. I got out of them. It's a nice loan, and I still have a rate cap that's still paying me like 50 grand a month, and I get that money because we set it up correctly outside of the loan. And it's paying like 50 grand till October. So I still got another 3 or 4 months. So it's been a beautiful thing. But Steve, at the end of the day, real estate is cyclical. It's up and down. But this is the beauty. And this is why I think investors should really pay attention and find good operators like you and me and people that really care, is there's levers. COVID happened, but I didn't lose all my properties. I had to go, skinning. Like we eliminated all the fat. We're like, massive layoff. We only like skeleton crew. We had to do and then we had to do some workarounds with the bank on 2 properties. It's just the kids didn't show up, and they didn't show up for 2 years almost. Right. So it was tough, but that's the beauty of real estate, is there's always some levers. And my background is I used to be actually a financial advisor. I didn't tell that part, but I actually got a license, Series 766. And so I was a financial advisor for 2004 to 2008 or something like that, right? And what I realized when the market crashed, I realized I had no control. Like, I have these 2 investors that came from Intel, and they had a couple $1 million a piece, almost $4 million. Husband and wife, been engineers all their lives, saved their money diligently, retired in 2005 or 6, put it in a very balanced, more conservative portfolio. Steve, in 2009, they're coming in and she looks like she's about ready to she's exhausted. He looks like he's about ready to tap himself out, because their balance is now worth half. It's just 2 million, not 4. And all the plans they'd made just went to crap. And the only thing I could tell them is, it's the market. And then to add injury to insult, and this is why I left the business and I got into real estate full time, is that I had to charge them a fee because they all wanted to move. The right play was just don't do anything. Stay in this investment. It'll come out and you'll be fine. Just watch your spending for the next couple of years. That was what I told them to do. But what they said to do is cash me all out, put it in cash or money market. So you do that and make the trade. You got to charge them for it. And at the end of the day, they'll never recover. And I just said to myself, I'm done with, I thought I was a good financial advisor. I really cared. I realized I had no levers and shame on me. So real estate's been a lot better.
Yeah, that's always a challenge. And it's like, oh, that's so tough because then it's like, bam, they just realize all those losses, right? And you don't have control. This is always the big deal with investing in the market, let's say as a whole, even if you're in an index fund or something that's just taking a little piece. Well, for one, is only a very small portion. The Pareto principles at full play within that and even beyond, like the Mag 7 and all that kind of stuff has been driving the market for a long time. The rest of the market is pulling things down. So you're only ever going to get blended mediocre returns. And then too, like, just like you said, you don't have any control. Like I love Elon Musk, but I don't have any control. And I own Tesla. I own Teslas, like cars and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, I don't have any control over what he says. Like it's that's all market sentiment. We have zero control. There's no leverage for us to pull, like to control like what Tesla's doing. Like, so you have zero control. And there's so much of your story like here that we can go over. It's like, man, you cover a lot of ground there. I love one of those things or some of that stuff early on that you made mention of. It's just like, okay, at a certain point, you have almost this epiphany. It's a mindset shift. And I think for most of us, that's the case. You're working in the business, even talking about your financial advisor business. And then even when you're doing, let's say, wholesaling and flipping and that kind of stuff, there's a mindset shift that has to happen at some point. If you want to get better than what you're currently getting, then there's got to be a switch that needs to happen. You can't continue to do the same. So for those of our listeners, maybe you guys are on the precipice of that. Maybe you're struggling. You've been in your 9 to 5, you've been in your same career and it's just like, dude, this is falling flat. Like I hate my job, right? Or it's just like, maybe your job is okay. Maybe you don't hate it, but you're just like, gosh, man, I feel like there should be something more, right? I should have the freedom to go visit Kauai and go catch some waves when my family wants to do that, or take a vacation, or to not have to file a year in advance if you want to take a vacation. Right? Like I said, that was the position I used to be in. And a lot of people are in that position currently, right? So it's like the mindset shift. You have to make that decision. And for those of our listeners, like Corey and I can't make that decision for you. It has to be you. And a lot of times we won't make that decision unless we go through a certain amount of pain, right? And so sometimes that's that driving motivation. It's not just, okay, cool. Like for you, thankfully, it was like, all right, like I get to see this, was it your father-in-law?
Yeah.
Or is it, it was your book. It's like,
I see a real life version of what success looked like. And that was self-made. Right. And even I didn't say this, but I actually got fired from Edward Jones, right? Because my heart left the business and so did once your heart leaves, so do your cells. And so that was what pushed me to really go full-time real estate. I was in part-time real estate. I went full-time because I was forced to make a choice. I had a meeting at 10 o'clock. And when I went in the office at 8, my secretary couldn't look at me. I was like, oh, the call's been on. I'm going to get canned. And I've never been fired in my life. So I was like, and I remember sitting in my office and I was like, what am I going to do? And I knew, like, when you're a little kid, you used to dream and you could dream and you never put any filters on what you could achieve. And so this little kid was fighting with this 30-year-old man saying, put me in. And my 30-year-old myself is like, I got a kid, 2 kids, a mortgage, real things that I've got to be responsible for. And in the quiet of that office, all by myself, 4 walls, I made the most deep down, honest, I'm telling you everything that I am commitment. I made it to myself that I would do whatever it takes to be successful in real estate, as long as it was legal and ethical. There was nothing that I was not willing to do. And so when I got fired at 10 o'clock, I left the office like Rocky. It only lasted for like 2 or 3 minutes because then I had to go home and tell the wife. And so sheer terror hit me. But my wife did me the most solid. She was like, honey, I believe in you. I trust you. But do not fail, because what was on the line was my kids and my family. And it was enough motivation, though, that I went to work like nobody's business. And me and Shelley could talk about the times when I was just really going single family. of me staying up till 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, studying the MLS. I wasn't even a realtor, but I had borrowed someone else's login, and I'm studying markets and subdivisions so I can be quick for REOs and short sales. And so I put in the work. But I will tell you, this business allows you to live a life like no other, and you get time and money. Like those are the two things you really get when you do this business right. And also there's a lot of joy. We used to have a teaching and coaching program, so we used to teach people how to buy apartments, but I get a lot of joy too of giving my investors returns. Like that's a great one to watch them. We give them a better return they could ever get in the stock market. 6 to 8% is what most people make in the stock market. And we're giving 12 to 18, sometimes 20. Dude, where do you get that in the real world? People like me and Steve.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll talk to investors and you're just talking to individuals, and it's just like, there's not an on-ramp for something like this for the vast majority of people. There just isn't. Like, you have to know people who are operating in this very small space, because if you go talk to your coworker, right, you go talk to your neighbor, they're doing the same thing. They're doing exactly what Corey was just saying. They're going to their financial advisor or whoever the company is tasked to handle their 401k. Right. And it's like, they're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, and they don't have any inside information. Like that's the crazy thing too is, and again, no one talked to any financial advisor. I'm talking to one, and just as a disclaimer, none of this is a financial advice, even though he was licensed before. You'll never hear real estate from a financial
I can tell you horrible stories about what they really talk about. They don't care about you, by the way. I have no problems hitting up financial advisors. They don't. Most of them don't care. They really don't. All they care about is their management, assets under management, how big their 12B1 fees are, and what they're making on you. It's brutal. And I saw the worst of it, right? And it is just Wolf of Wall Street. I'm just telling you. I don't care. Yeah. I mean, there's some good guys out there, but man, still, sure. I would take a syndicator that I would bet and do and have probably a better chances than anything else.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're never going to hear a financial advisor talk about real estate, right? So it's the people that you're going to, let's say, to trust or for trusted financial information. They can't monetize with your real estate. So there's no incentive for them to be able to talk to you about it, right? Even
there's
if they're
there's a rule 405, it can't sell away. So they're not even allowed to. Like, licensed people cannot sell anything that their broker dealer does not rep, and they can't even talk about it or give advice. And so one of the things, like when people would come into my office and say, "Hey, Corey, we're thinking about buying some real estate or the syndicate," I'm like, "Ooh, that sounds really risky, right? Why do you want to do that?" I'm like, "Why don't you just invest in this REIT, a real estate investment trust?" And so that was my, like, what are they going to report? What happens if they don't report correctly? I'm going to scare the hell out of them to make them look like I'm so smart in my suit and my tie. And and it's the funniest thing. It's the only place where millionaires go to take advice from someone that makes $100,000 a year. And it's crazy. Because they're the stock broker. They're broker than you are, and you're going to take advice from.
I was going to say, I mean, that's a challenge, because again, like, they just don't have an on-ramp. There's no like educational component. This is why we put out stuff like this, because now you're getting insight. Like, the curtain is being pulled back. Corey's able to share because he was in the industry, and just a lot of us, hey, you know what? We step into different rooms. You're going to learn different things. You want to surround yourself with people who are doing the things that you want to do, right? Just like Corey early on. Absolutely. Like, and it's more available and accessible than ever before through this podcast, through Corey's stuff, any information he's got out there. Like, there's just so many people out there where you're able to glean from our experience, our mistakes, our lessons. So you don't have to kind of do the same. We can help fast track what it is that you're trying to do. Maybe it's not this, but I mean, geez, make a move, right? Like, make a decision for yourself to make your life better. Right.
Either get into the real estate field if that's what you like, or learn how to invest in it, because both those are still better than, I think, a better odds, a better chances of success than getting 6 to 8% or not. Because sometimes they lose money in years. Right. And so it's really not what it is cracked up to be. Yeah. Over time it works, but most of us are not saving near enough, and you can't save your way to success. You can't do it. You have to invest.
100%. And let's say you're even making 6 to 8%. I mean, the amount of money that they've printed the last few years, you're not even keeping up with inflation. I mean, the published inflation rates are a joke. If you're not making, honestly, if you're not making 14% plus or 10, at least 10%, like if you're not making 10%, like dude, you're sinking. And so this is why holding on to real estate, holding on to hard assets, something that's an inflation hedge, it's so key. And this is where you'll hear all the time, like, oh, the rich get richer. It's because the decisions are a little different. Like instead of, if you're a listener and you're kind of on the fence, maybe you're not an investor now, but you're just like, hey, I should be doing something better. Well, guess what? You have to decide on what side of the fence you want to play. It's like, Corey said it earlier, like if it's legal and ethical, hey, why wouldn't you do it? There's so much of this stuff that's written into, like, let's say the tax code. They would encourage investors and people who are making wise decisions for themselves to go out and make those decisions. You're incentivized to do it.
Yes.
So you just have to determine, you have to make that decision on, hey, what set of rules do I want to play by? Right.
You just talked out of one of the big ones too. Your biggest partner in life is Uncle Sam. Mm-hmm. So avoiding to pay taxes. I've not paid taxes in like 5 or 6, 7 years, at least income tax.
Right. Yeah.
Now I pay myself as a W-2 employee, so I get taxes taken out of my check, but I actually get all that money back because I show a loss on my personal return because these things called cost segregation studies, and I get depreciation. And so because I play by the rule, and the investors that invest with us can play with it too and use that in such a way. And then if you really get smart about the laws, you'll realize that if you have a realtor's license, or if you can be considered a real estate professional, you can take those losses and offset your other income.
Active income. Yeah.
And guys, that's a game changer. Because just think, if you are making 50% money and you get a thing that says, no, I don't have to, I can get all of that, you will accelerate your wealth like nobody's business.
Yep. 100%. If you're getting whacked, let's say 30 to 40%, let's say taxes, and depending on where you're at too, right? Because you're talking state and federal. I mean, if you're in California or one of these other states are real high income, or high income tax rather, that could be upwards of 50%, let's say, right? But if now you're able to take that 30 to 40 and then go add that back towards your investments, now how many hours fewer is that you having to work, where now you can now take that and go put that back towards buying hard assets, right? That are going to kick off cash flow, that are going to help earn you. It's like you just picked up another chop, right? And again, a lot of this just comes from understanding the tax code and understanding that. I mean, it sounds not fair, but guess what? The unfair part is you actually going out and just learning about it. You took the time to go read the book or take a class or do a study or whatever.
Listen to this podcast, and that's part of the process.
And you know what? That is unfair to the other person that chose not to actually go and listen to it and do the homework and all that kind of stuff. So
that's why I love America, because there's a lot 100%. Of it is for those who work and educate. And because I grew up poor, like when I say poor, I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. I had no money. I would go to McDonald's. I sat down, you get a hamburger and you got to share your small fry, right? I never knew what a Big Mac was, right? Like, I'm just telling you. But in our country, I think a lot of people miss this, is there's so much opportunity if you will just open the door. And now we have AI, we have Google, and all those things. You have information. This is the information age. And so if you will embrace that, as what I know Steve has, there's so much riches out there in just little, in knowledge. Knowledge is power, but it's the taking the knowledge and putting action behind it that actually is the power of it, right? Knowledge without any action is nothing.
It's the applied knowledge. Yeah. That actually has the impact. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Corey, I could talk to you all day about all of this, because it's just, again, like we're both coming from a place of wanting just to add value, right, to the listeners and help them along their journey, because we know the struggle and the pain of having what it's like on the other side, right? And so, but I want to be mindful of your time. So this is the point of our show where we can transition to what we call our fire round, just a little bit more rapid fire questions, more brief Q&A. Is that something you're up for?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, right on. All right, first question. What is the best book that you recommend, other than the Purple Bible? We already talked about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Do you have a favorite book recommendation? I know you got your own too, so we'll definitely.
Yeah, no, I'm willing to mine. So the richest man in Babylon.
Yep.
A tenth of mine, of everything I make, is mine to keep. It's a great, solid book just about understanding money, right? And most of us, or most households that I know of, like mine, we never talked about money. And understanding that money is not evil. It can be used for good or bad, right? And so, but learning how to master money is a real big principle. I think the rich teach their kids that more often than not. And the poor middle class just don't know how because they've never understood it. And so understanding that is, and that book does a really good job explaining how to master money.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. It's a great book recommendation. If you're not a reader, they have great audio versions of that too, but the concepts are just super, super powerful. Yeah, that's a great recommendation. All right. Next question. What would you consider your superpower to be?
I can raise money like nobody's business. So, and that I would say I'm pretty good at raising money. I'm just really good at talking with people. My real greatest strength is I'm a full-time dad, and I just became an empty nester. I've got my kids out of the house. That just happened 3 weeks ago. And that's all I was about. I did real estate so I could be a full-time. I was my kids' coaches. I did everything. I feel like I checked all the boxes. I do not feel like I worked too much. I worked just enough to be able to support being a dad full-time.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's to those of you listening in and that you also have kids and you have a family. That's the kind of stuff that's like generational. Like the fact that Corey has got money, doesn't matter if he leaves them that money or any of that kind of stuff. It's none of that. It's the relationship building, because once they grow up and they're out of the house and whatnot, like it's up to them whether or not they want to have a relationship with you. If dad was cool, mom was cool, and you had a good time with them and they respect you, they understand the heart behind all the things that you did. Hey, you know what? You have a much better chance of them actually wanting to maintain a relationship with you versus like, dude, I never saw my dad. He was always at his job. He was always at the 9 to 5. And you needed to do something else on off hours. What a horrible feeling. So you can change that. Make a decision.
Amen.
Right. All right. Next question. What is the biggest lesson that you've learned over your career thus far?
The sooner and quicker I learn to fail, the better I become. Right. My life has been a constant set of failures. And in the beginning, those failures were hard to take and hard to learn. Now I just say it's par for the course. And I've learned that it's okay, because it really only means, it doesn't mean anything, because I never quit. I just learned. In wrestling, my son was a wrestler. You either win or you learn. You don't really lose, you learn. And so that's kind of my take on it, is like sometimes business is a wrestling match. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you learn. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to make that mistake again. And that's called experience, actually. And so I feel like I'm pretty wise. I've made a lot of mistakes, and I'm looking forward to the ones I'm going to make, believe it or not, because what is your biggest teacher, success or failure? I would argue to say it's failure. It doesn't have to be massive failure, but when you make mistakes, you're going to learn from it.
No, out of I feel like a couple hundred people that I've interviewed over the years, like that's always a common theme. It's just like not being afraid for one to fail, but you're failing forward. Right. Because again, you're taking something away from actually having stepped out and attempted. And somewhere along the way, we lose that.
I would also try to tell you, find someone that will mentor you in that process. Right. So for me, luckily I had my spouse was my support system. Some of you may not have that. You may not have like your spouse, you wouldn't want, like, they're not cool with that. Find an entrepreneur, because a lot of times they can understand what you just went through. For me, I was thankful that my wife was that person. She would mend me up, get me right, then she'd kick me out the door and say, go get them.
That's awesome. That's also that's right there is sage advice too. Like pick the right partner, like pick the right life partner, because man, that can really make or break the things. If you fail and they're not okay with that, oh gosh.
When you lose money, you'll see real quick. They'll either make sure they'll beat you like a dog or they'll forgive, and they'll like, okay, what do we learn from this? Right. And so it's the intent, and like, you're going to make mistakes, but usually a lot of times they're not life changing. They're big. We make them bigger than they really think than they are.
They're temporary. Oh, very good. All right. Then for the busy working professional, somebody who's trying to work towards financial freedom, what advice would you have for them?
Find syndicators like me and Steve and invest with them, because if you want to get out of your job faster and quicker, the only way you can do that is replace your income. When you replace your income, you're financially free. And so that is the message that I tell a lot, because I think I've seen it happen. I've got some doctors and some dentists, that I got a domain called getoutofthemouth.com for dentists, because they're tired of drilling, right? They want if they're not there, they're not making money unless they own a pretty good practice, right?
Right.
And so they want to retire. They want to do things they want to do, not be at work.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then that's also the richest man in Babylon. Like, it's like, hey, I tell people all the time, it's like, man, I want to work for every dollar once. I want to work for it one time. If I work for it that one time, it better be going out and earning more.
Yeah. You send
more
it out
golden
and
coins.
it brings more dollars back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Corey, if our audience wants to get in touch with you, they want to reach out, they're like, man, hey, I need some property management services, or so I just want to pick your brain or whatever. What's the best avenue for them to do that?
I got a wonderful book that I wrote called Trust But Verify. And if you will text the word trust to 480-500-1127. So the word trust, 480-500-1127. We'll give you the book for free. My team will send it to you and ship it to you for free. It's a really good book on how to vet syndicators like me and Steve. What questions you should ask. How should you look underneath the hood, and really gives you the perspective. I kind of wrote it from the investor's point of view. If I was looking in and I was trying to figure out, and knowing that I have insider information because I'm on the other side. So it was really a book that was fun to write, that was set up to get those people that are like, I know I should be doing something other than the stock market. How do I do it? And what questions would I ask? And how do I find the right guy that I can trust with my hard-earned money?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's powerful. So go ahead and text Corey. You can get him and his team will set up there.
Kahuna Investments is our website, KahunaInvestments.com.
Awesome. Well, Corey, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your wisdom, sharing your advice. And like I said, I could chat with you I'm sure for hours. So appreciate you. And thanks for all you're doing for the community and for real estate as a whole. And we look forward to catching up with you in the future.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
Aloha. All right. Awesome conversation with Corey Peterson from Kahuna Investments. Great conversation. The guy's got an awesome life story. Corey's got a great life story and lots of learned lessons along the way. Again, super, super common theme kind of throughout, like so many of our conversations. If you guys are longtime listeners, it's just failing forward, not being afraid to go out and step out, make a mistake. It's going to happen, guys. But at a certain point, you have to make a decision. Either it's going to be painful enough, or maybe your current situation is just, I can't do this anymore, or you're going to be stuck in the misery of the pain of the everyday, right? And it starts with a mindset shift. Corey mentioned that, going through different books and learning from different mentors, right? We're able to glean from them, able to have some different takeaways where that helps us to think a little bit differently, right? Even just a certain take on a situation can make all the difference in the world. Instead of, I can't do that, right? Saying, I can't do that. Well, how can I do that, right? Can I go find somebody who is doing it? Can I read a book about it? Can I join a group? Can I find a mentor? Like, there's so many different better questions that you can start asking. And how can I is going to be a huge one. And I love that his company's gone vertically, where they're able to incorporate property management now into their business. Again, all different ways. So these are all learned from having done deals, from being in deals, learning the pain of working with different management companies and how their goals are not going to be aligned with necessarily your goals as a company. So if you're an operator, then maybe that's the next step for you to step out and to go vertical. This is something we implemented into our business as well. Again, these are just things that you pick up and learn along the way. Guys, well, go back, take another listen. There's so many gems in that one. But if you're interested in investing with us, go to tricityequity.com. You can learn more, schedule a call with somebody here on the team, or reach out to us directly, connect with like-minded investors. If you guys here are on island, or if you're going to be visiting Oahu, or maybe you're outer island, and you're going to pop over, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We'd love to connect with you and meet you at the next in-person meetup. We do them every month. So we'd love to shake your hand. We'd love to have some face-to-face conversation with you, get to know a little bit more about what it is you're trying to do or try to accomplish, and see how we can best help you out. But if you guys found value in the podcast, of course, we'd love it if you share it. We'd love a review as well. Make sure that you're sharing it with your friends. And it's the only way we can help to kind of spread this message and get more people involved in making great decisions and life-changing decisions, honestly, and having an impact, not only for them, but their future generations as well. Guys, it's going to be it for today. We sign off. We'll see you on the next episode. Aloha. Go out and take some action. Fell forward.